Good morning, and welcome to a little talk on trust and meditation and what it means to really trust in our own nature, but to also understand our own nature in such a way that we're able to be good shepherds uh, in this lifetime, to be good guides to ourselves. Understanding our nature both means developing a great trust that we are already built in order to meditate, in order to evolve, in order to become enlightened. And it's also recognizing that there are challenges and obstacles whenever we happen to take form as a human. And trusting our own understanding of some of those obstacles uh, is is really helpful as we're trying to really sort out what is my true nature and how can I most fully align with it. In the Yoga Sutras, just one of my favorite texts, and a primary source text that I return to again and again. It opens with this idea that to practice yoga is really to work with our chitta, to work with our mental energy. Is actually a pretty good translation of chitta. And our mental energy can show up in all kinds of ways. But the mental energy is also subtle. It's something that can feel like can feel formless because it's not necessarily out. It's not, though the ramifications are out here. The ramifications of our chitta are very much out here in the world. They're very much here in our bodies, right? When we're really anxious in our mental energy, we release a ton of cortisol in our physical bodies, and it has physical ramifications. If we continue to do that over time, like I said in our last talk, we can actually make ourselves quite sick. So there are ramifications for the chitta. There, of course, there's also ramifications for other kinds of chitta or other flavors of mental energy, positive and negative. But the point is, because it's an internal experience, it can be difficult to put our fingers on, and it can be difficult to work with. That's exactly why we need to work with it. Because being internal and being subtle, the chitta is at the source. It touches that source of the roots of our pleasure and our pain, of our suffering, and of our gratitude. And so as long as we continue to work in the outer spaces without turning inward and investigating this chitta, we're going to be really frustrated and confused because we don't understand what's at the root. We don't understand what's at the foundation of our experience. And in the Yoga Sutras, right at the beginning, he tells us that when we're able to quiet a certain kind of chitta, the chitta vritti, the spinning, always modifying, changing, shifting mental energy, the mental energy that is not stable or clear, that when we get to a place where that energy is less frenetic, it's less moving and changing, then we can access our true nature, Svarupa. we can start to experience what we really are and where our power really lies. And so then the whole journey of the rest of the book is, how do we do this? I'll talk a little bit more about that, the book itself here, but I want to just kind of pause and offer you um, a simple interpretation that doesn't include a bunch of Sanskrit words, and might be pretty easy to understand. The essence of what we're doing in meditation practice can be broken down to pretty much a kind of two-part gesture. It is to actively take our attention, and that our attention is a particular kind of chitta, really. It's a mental energy that connects to some object or another. And so to direct the attention, so the first part of the gesture is, I'm going to de-invest. I'm going to take my mental energy away from a place where it has been going. And the second part of that gesture is, I am going to reinvest that mental energy into a new place. That's it. That's what we're doing internally. And then I'm going to keep that mental energy invested in the place of my choosing as long as I can. And then when it goes elsewhere, wherever it ends up going, maybe back to the original thing you de-invested from, maybe somewhere else altogether, doesn't matter. We do this exact same gesture. And so there's several things that we could say, that we could look at here. The first thing that I want you to notice is that what we're practicing when we meditate, I mean, the reason why there are so many different meditation techniques and styles and touchstones, there's so many different ways to do that. Really, what we're saying is, it doesn't really matter which object you're taking from and you're giving to. What you're practicing is the gesture itself. It's just like if I'm learning a new dance move and I just do it over and over and over again, or it doesn't kind of matter whether I'm doing it in the rehearsal studio or on the stage, or it's like I'm just practicing this gesture. And then if I'm doing some dance improv at some point, that gesture is just, I've done it so many times that it doesn't matter really what the context is, or if I'm in whatever kind of choreography I'm in. If I really have really got this beautiful gesture down, it'll just kind of come through naturally. It'll be just part of my vocabulary. And our meditation training is an internal training where we're becoming more fluid and fluent and comfortable doing this particular gesture. De-investing, reinvesting. And in the Yoga Sutras, these break down, to bring this back to that, these break down really to, what is that? The fifth and the sixth limbs of yoga. Pratyahara, to de-invest from there. It particularly says, the objects of of sensation, what it is that we tend to connect with. So we're de-investing, and then dharana, which is classically considered the first step of meditation, is to focus. What it says there is to desha bandha chittasya. And what that means is desha bandha chittasya means to bind your mental energy, your chitta, to desha, to one place. Desha basically means a place. And it doesn't matter, what I'm saying is, in a way, it doesn't matter which place we invest it. We can still call it meditation, and we can still be doing that training with all kinds of different touchstones. Now, it also does totally matter what touchstones we choose, and it does totally, there is relevance there. Now, when we're learning the gesture itself, so we recognize that as long as we're practicing that, we're practicing meditation, it's doing that work. But we will also come to find that there are some touchstones that have a greater gravitational pull for our awareness, that feel more relevant or resonant for whatever reason. And because we are investing our energy in a particular place, why not invest it into something, a touchstone that represents something that you want to invest in, that represents a relationship that you want to develop, or a truth that you really want to embody. And then, of course, where are we de-investing from? And that has all kinds of information as well. Where our mental energy already tends to gravitate or get stuck, that tells us so much about where our suffering is coming from. It tells us about what the obstacles are to meditation, but deeper than that, what are the obstacles to me living the life that I want to live? So back to the Yoga Sutras, in order to kind of to work with this. So we've got this de-investing of pratyahara, the withdrawing of our mental energy from the places where it's been. We've got dharana, which is I'm going to invest really specifically and consciously in a different place. Then there's dhyana, which is what should naturally flow from this, which is the experience. And actually, the word flow is right in this verse of the sutras. But basically, once we've mastered, dharana, which is usually translated as focus, single pointed focus is actually a really good way of thinking about it. That then we experience a singular flow of a kind of directionality of our energy and our attention that starts to flow in a way that feels like it's just flowing on its own to that touchstone and to that object, that desha, that place, whatever it is that we've attached to. And then the last limb of yoga, the last experience of meditation, is something that we don't practice. It sort of happens to us. Then through that experience of that flow, we start to, the chitta becomes what he says, shunya, empty. And so what we're able to meet is the svarupa, the true nature of whatever it is that we are connecting with. And we get to experience that our chitta, that the chitta can become clear, that our attention can become pure, and then we start to taste what we really are, which is this formlessness which meets form, which is meeting form in every moment. And so that formlessness, that shunya, that emptiness is something that we actually become to gradually by this process. We become nothing, but we do it by first saying no to all this, all the many, many, many multitude of things and choosing one thing. Learning how to be single pointed, singularly directed with our energy. And just for these little short chunks of time as we can. But then when we start to get access to what we realize, and we started to realize it as soon as we practice pratyahara, as soon as we practice letting go of where I'm usually stuck, just right there already, whoa, I am not that, right? I'm stuck on my body, I'm stuck on my personality, I'm stuck on my goals. And in that moment before I even put my attention back and invested onto like my mantra, thank you was my mantra today, thank you. Before I reinvest into that, already I'm in shunya for a moment there. I've already learned how to let go. I've already learned that I'm not what I thought I was and what I keep staring at and trying to make into me, because that's all just form, and form is always changing. We chanted Taraka Timi Ram Deepo this morning before this talk, and what is it? What is it called? That chant. It's a Buddhist chant actually, and it comes from the Diamond Sutra. But which is a text, right? So we just put it to some music so that it becomes catchy, and we can repeat it, and we can work with that like a touchstone, right? But what it's all about is just naming all of these things that we know come and go. A distant star. We're actually looking at light that's, millions or billions of years old. We're not even looking at a star that's necessarily still there. If somebody were looking at our planet from far away, if they could, they actually researched this. For those of you who were on last week, I didn't record anyway, but it's a little more complicated than I brought this up last week. Someone had told me that if you were like standing on another planet and you were looking at the Earth, what you would, depending on how far away it was, but you would be looking at the Earth millions or billions of years ago. You might see the Earth covered in dinosaurs. You go, oh, that planet's covered in dinosaurs, because that's how light travels. Anyway, the point is, so in this, seeing something as a taraka as a star, right? Seeing something as a star, if we really think about it, already brings us into this place of, oh my goodness, things are not what they seem. Looking around this reality, it looks like there's a little star in the sky right now. It's much more complicated than that. And what we're looking back in time in a way. And someone looking at us, would also be doing something similar. It starts to dissolve a lot of like what we hold to be this truth. Timi Ram's like an obstruction in your eye. It could also describe blindness. And it's like if you had like a little dust speck in your eye, you wouldn't, you could understand that could actually be removed. That's not your true vision. A lamp, depot is a lamp. And so a lamp has fuel in it, and we know that the fuel is going to run out. We're not shocked when the lamp fuel runs out. That's its nature. That is the nature of form. And what it tells us, what this text tells us, is look at everything on the material plane like this. Know that form is like this. And don't get attached to any of it, but also don't get averse to any of it. Don't be in this resistance. Don't try to be controlling all of it. And so what does this have to do with trust? Once we start to recognize that we're in a world of form and formlessness both, that we belong to both, but that they have different qualities and ways that they manifest and ways that they work in this reality. We stop trying to control form. We stop trying to make form have the qualities of formlessness. Formlessness, this true nature of ours that meets everything, and receives life. This formlessness is, like I said about even the chitta, right? Can be very difficult. It's way more difficult than chitta to put our attention on, right? So that's why, again, everything's done in stages. But what he's ultimately describing is that we make our chitta as much like pure awareness as we can, so that then we can release even that and experience our true nature. But what we're really doing is we're building trust in the formless, and we're de-investing trust in formlessness, or sorry, in form. And or what we're saying is, I trust form to be form, which means to always be changing. I trust that lamp to run out of fuel, probably around the same amount of time that it did last time. Maybe a little different because of unknown conditions that I don't totally understand. And so we can trust form and we can trust formlessness, but what we're doing is basically we're learning how to, at least for the period of time of meditation, to stop giving so much, stop pouring all of our investment, all of our energy, all of our attention, all of our time into form. Because what that's doing is creating the conditions for suffering. It's creating the conditions for feeling really anxious, for trying to fix and change things at a level that, and in ways that it's not their nature. But guess what? The formless moves through and is the source of all of the form. It's all together. And so, and this is what I was talking about at the end of the last talk, how can, whenever we're in a given situation, how can we bring ourselves back into trust by recognizing, or as best as we can, the nature of the situation that we're in? Now, pause here. When we're in meditation, I want us to be practicing as much as we can that pratyahara and dharana, and letting dhyana and samadhi come. Meaning, while we're in our seated meditation, is not necessarily the time to be doing all this intense inquiry work. There's a time and a place for that. Or to be expressing, to be talking to oneself a lot about how all this works. That all can happen after meditation. Because the meditation part is so essential, because we're working on that deeper level. We're rewiring the neurons, so to speak. We're working at that level that we could do inquiry all day. We can study the greatest texts in the world. We can do all of that, but we're not developing trust in our formlessness. We're not developing trust in what we are when we're not connecting to sense objects or to objects, to form. We never break that cycle if we don't practice practice some of this pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, right? But we're not doing that all the time. We are then getting up from our meditation cushion and spending a little time doing inquiry, doing exploration, listening to Dharma talks, like listening to the voices of wise, trusted sources as we have them, having conversations, really trying to work things out for ourselves. Because here's another aspect of trust. If you don't see it for yourself, some part of you is always going to doubt it. Some of us are more like that than others. Some of us really have to investigate the crap out of something before we're satisfied, which is a beautiful thing and also at times a challenging thing. I'm like that. But the beauty of it, and this is written into sort of how Buddhism differentiates itself, and yoga, really, which is, Buddha was a yogi. This kind of practice differentiates itself from a simply from one that's like a theological practice based on a deity. The Buddha wasn't a deity. Patanjali is not a deity, though of course we do all kinds of things to revere them and make them seem like deities. But they were saying, no. You're not going to get there by bowing down to me. You're going to get there by investigating on your own. Your job is to doubt your way to trust, to ask questions until you get to that sense of peace and satisfaction of real understanding, that we're not just taking in the answers that somebody else has, because we'll never come to that deep place of trust where we can actually let go into our own true nature. Some part of us, some wise part of us, is going to be going, I don't know. So we have to learn how to see for ourselves. We have to learn how to master the gestures, the internal gestures of meditation. I'm taking this back. This is mine. This is my attention. I'm taking this back from you right now with no cruelty. There's none needed. This is mine. I'm taking it back. I'm going to put it over here. On the feeling of I am, on the mantra, on the image of my guru, right? And as we master these ourselves, not watching somebody else master them and applauding, or asking them to kind of pour some of their boons onto us, we are mastering it ourselves. We're seeing it for ourselves. And then that trust that's built slowly over time is what gives us access to our formlessness. And it also gives us, finally, peace with our form, with that which changes. So we get access to the formlessness. The formlessness doesn't change. It's the same for the star and for the dust molecule in my eye and for the lamp. The emptiness is the same for you, for me. It's been the same my entire life. It's consistent. We can trust that in actually this kind of deeper, different way, but we can't trust it to show up like form does. We can't trust it to be manipulable in that way. And so what you experience in your meditation cushion gives you hints, really strong, important hints about what it is that you ought to investigate and check out in your inquiry time and in your exploration, and when you do your study and when you talk to people or when you write, you journal, or make art about it. Look for yourself. Where do I get stuck? And what do I think I'm going to get? Okay, here's some inquiry for you. When I have to de-invest, what have I been pulled toward? And what is the deeper story? This could be called the avidya, right? So that has an attraction. raga, right? It attracts us. We're attached. We get attached to these things. Our attachments have so much to teach us. They're so beautiful. They're such beautiful teachers. But it's like, what is it? Track it for yourself, notice it, and then can ask yourself, what is the story behind this? Somehow I think I'm going to get my peace. I'm going to get my happiness. I'm going to get what I came here for from this. Why? And follow that investigative trail. Explore how that relates to other challenges that you're having in your life right now. And then feel really good about the moments when you de-invest energy. And it's not that that thing itself is bad or wrong, but the way that we're relating to it, we're not accepting it in its true nature. We're not accepting the nature, its changeable nature, whatever it is, and we're not accepting its formless nature, whatever that is. And we ask why, just keep asking why. So that's really the heart of what I wanted to share today. I'm going to close just with this idea of this way that I've been practicing trust in these last couple of weeks. Something that's really been working for me is reminding myself to be natural. Just be natural, to just move around the world as if I'm already in trust. To be basically practicing this gesture, this attitude, this feeling of trust as much as I can in my relationships. And the way that this is all outlined in the Yoga Sutras, what he's really teaching us is how to be in relationship at the most subtle level, how we relate to all this stuff, whatever the stuff is, whatever shows up, right? And the more that we do this, whatever shows up in our lives, we meet it with this similar way. And so I've been really kind of setting as my intention before I go, especially if am going toward something that feels like it might be a little stressful or even a little heightened, right? Sometimes think something's so good that there's a kind of stress about it, right? Or I'm excited about something. And so that excitement can actually create fear and attachment and aversion. Anyway, so I've been going into situations kind of reminding myself, just feel as comfortable as you can here. Feel comfortable in your own skin. And even if I don't understand or trust something in that environment, what do I trust that's happening right here? We did our meditation today where we were really appreciative of how much we trust our breath. And how can I find those internal touchstones? How can I be close to myself and really in that right relationship with myself in any environment? So that even if I had somebody literally saying, you don't belong here, get out, right? I could still actually be in trust. I would probably leave that environment, unless there was some important thing I had to do there. But that the feeling of trust that I have, that I've been building every day this month in meditation, and for a time much longer than that I can carry that with me no matter where I go and keep deepening it and deepening it. Feel free to make any comments or ask any questions here if you have anything that you want to add or ask about or underline as we close up. Okay. So, yeah, good, Judy. Judy needed this today, she says. Um, Pam's really glad I shared the excitement part. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I feel like if I ever think things are just one way, I always look for its opposite, for its pair. Yeah, it's a weird one that pulls you out of meditation is excitement, anticipation of something that's positive, right? Um, this is a rule of mine. It's like if anything seems like it's just one way, oh, it's always my negative emotions that I'm worried about. Okay, how are the positive emotions also? How do they play a role in this? Usually, if there's a night, there's a day. If there's a yin, there's a yang, right? And looking at both can be really enlightening and kind of help us understand how it all fits together and help us get out of attachment and aversion. I want all the excitement. I want none of the sadness, right? Those two things tend to go together. But I wanted to share this with you to close here. Nisargadatta says, to seek, there is no need. You would not seek what you already have. And so I've been trying to consider my naturalness, my trust, my innate goodness, right? My happiness, these things that I'm seeking through meditation. I really am. I'm seeking them in so many ways in my life, really through everything I do, right? What it is that I seek and I want the most. Be natural to me right now is act as if you already got it. And this is different than like some kind of spiritual bypass or like pretending. I'm very acknowledging of when I have negative experiences or positive ones or, but to recognize that whatever I want the most is already here. And to recognize how the gesture of seeking, it's kind of like being ahead of myself and going after and trying and striving can be convincing, can be actually taking away trust. It can be taking me out of that posture of naturalness and ease and peace and calm and reinforcing the sense that I'm not whole, that I don't have what I need here. And so how can I keep walking the path, and keep exploring along the way, keep evolving, but carrying this feeling of trust with me, carrying a sense of confidence in what I do know and where I have been and what I am right here and right now, my own true nature, the way I'm already built. It's letting the obstacles melt in the moment. That is how I understand that kind of showing up as if attitude, practicing trust. Yeah, just letting them melt in the moment is a great way to talk about it and to just, and as you do your inquiry about what you're attracted to, it's like it's going to give you some information about this. But what if you just had moments where you stopped trying so hard? Just stop. Just stop for a moment. Stop being the seeker and just be with what is already here. Find something that you trust that's here now and connect with that before making any next steps. Okay, I'm going to leave you with that. And I will be talking about the theme of play next month. And I've been having some really interesting things come through about that. So I'm really excited to share that with you. And it is actually a really natural place to go from trust, is to be in the naturalness of play. I think something that I become afraid of when I'm trying to practice not doing is well, then I'll just be lazy. I'll be a lump on the couch. But the fact of the matter is, we were born wanting to play. We are born wanting to explore and learn and grow. No one can actually take that out of our nature. And so next month we're going to be experimenting with what that means, and what would it mean to approach life maybe more like a child, and to trust that our innate need and capacity for learning and evolution can come through as something that feels very playful. All right. Thank you. Much love to you. I'll see you all soon.